There's a moment, somewhere between the alarm and the mirror, when the day already feels heavy. You splash water on your face. You notice something in your reflection that wasn't there a few years ago, a tiredness that sleep doesn't seem to fix anymore. You reach for coffee before you reach for anything else, because willpower alone has stopped being enough. This is the quiet exhaustion so many people carry without naming it. Trying harder, eating less, pushing through workouts that feel more like punishment than care, and still, somehow, feeling older than the number on the calendar. But then there are others. People who seem to move through their days without this constant strain, calm, light, unhurried, slim without starving, youthful without obsession, peaceful in a way that feels almost unfair. What if the difference was never about effort at all? What if the people who seem to have it figured out aren't working harder, they're simply living differently, in ways so small they barely look like anything? The answer isn't found in what they do. It's found in how they live. And to understand that, we have to start with something most people overlook entirely. After dinner, instead of collapsing onto a couch, they walk. Not for fitness. Not for a step count. Just a slow, unhurried movement through the evening air, letting the body settle the way it was designed to. No podcast urging them to optimize. No goal to chase. Just motion, digestion, quiet. Later, there's tea. Not brewed for energy, not swallowed on the way out the door, but poured slowly, held with both hands, sipped without a screen nearby. It isn't a beverage. It's a pause built into the architecture of the day, a small, repeated permission to stop. And before bed, the skin is cared for, not with 10 products promising transformation overnight, but with 2 or 3, applied with attention, almost like a quiet conversation with oneself. Not chasing youth. Practicing it. None of this looks like discipline. There's no strain in it, no white-knuckled resistance. It looks, if anything, unremarkable, which is exactly the point. These aren't routines performed for results. They're small resets, threaded through the day, each one whispering the same message to the body and mind. You're allowed to slow down here. Not once. Not on vacation. Daily. This is the quiet difference between a habit treated as a chore to survive and a habit treated as an act of self-respect. One depletes you. The other, repeated enough times, begins to shape who you are. But rituals alone don't explain the calm. There's something deeper in how they treat stress itself. Most people have learned to treat stress like an intruder, something to numb, scroll away, or eat into silence the moment it appears. A hard day ends with a phone screen glowing in a dark room, or a second helping eaten without tasting it, or a scroll that lasts far longer than intended. Not because any of it feels good, because it feels like the only escape available. But there's another way of meeting stress entirely, one that doesn't try to outrun it. A walk with no destination, taken specifically when the mind feels tight. Not to fix anything, just to let the nervous system remember how to breathe at its own pace again. A window left open. A room kept quiet on purpose, without music, without noise, without anything demanding attention, just stillness, treated as necessary rather than empty. These aren't self-care trends borrowed from a wellness app. They're older than that. Quiet, structured rest, deliberate silence, space built into a day specifically, so the body has somewhere to release what it's been carrying. The difference is subtle but profound. Stress isn't suppressed here. It's metabolized, felt, moved through, allowed to pass, rather than shoved down and stored in the body for later. This is emotional intelligence practiced without ever calling itself that. Not a technique. A relationship, one where discomfort is treated as information, not emergency. Regulating stress changes how you feel in a day, but the next habit changes how your body ages across years. There's a jar of fermented vegetables in the fridge, unremarkable, almost forgotten between meals. It isn't eaten for flavor alone. Quietly, with every spoonful, something is happening beneath the surface, the gut being fed, soothed, kept in balance. And the skin, so often treated as separate from the body, is in constant conversation with what happens there. Inflammation doesn't announce itself loudly. It accumulates silently, in the small choices repeated over years, the sugar swallowed without thought, the sleep sacrificed for one more scroll. And sleep itself is protected here, not as an afterthought, but as something sacred. The same hour, most nights. The body allowed to complete its own quiet repair work, uninterrupted, night after night after night. Nothing dramatic. No supplement promising overnight transformation. Just consistency, offered again and again, long after motivation has left the room. This is not the language of instant beauty culture, the serum promising results in 7 days, the detox promising a new body by Monday. This is slower, almost invisible, a kind of maintenance that doesn't ask to be noticed. But biology remembers patience. What looks like nothing on any single day becomes, over years, a face that ages differently, a body less inflamed, a mind less foggy, not because of one dramatic choice, but because of 1,000 unremarkable ones, repeated without needing applause. None of these habits work in isolation. What ties them together is something the culture never had to name. Step back far enough, and none of these habits look like separate decisions anymore. The walk after dinner, the tea held slowly, the silence kept on purpose, the sleep protected like something sacred. They stop looking like a list and start looking like a single idea repeated in different forms throughout the day. Because this was never about willpower. Willpower is what you need when your environment is fighting against you, when every default choice pulls toward more stimulation, more speed, more consumption. But here, the environment itself has been quietly designed to require less resistance. The rhythm doesn't ask to be forced. It's simply the shape the day already takes. This is the real difference between motivation-dependent living and system-dependent living. One requires you to feel inspired before you act. The other doesn't ask how you feel at all. It just continues, because the structure was never optional in the first place. Nothing here was built to be copied as a checklist. These habits are expressions of something older, a relationship with time itself, with moderation, with the quiet belief that respecting the body doesn't require dramatic gestures, only consistent ones. This was never really about 7 habits. It was about a way of relating to a single day, repeated until it became a life. And once you see the system, the only question left is whether you're willing to live slower to feel younger. Maybe none of this was ever about becoming someone new. Maybe it was about returning to something quieter, a version of living that existed before the constant chasing began. Before slimness became a performance. Before youth became something to fight for instead of something to simply allow. There is a particular kind of relief in realizing you don't have to force your way into health. You don't have to earn calm through exhaustion, or punish your body into the shape you want, or treat every day as a battle against your own instincts. You can, instead, build a rhythm gentle enough that health becomes something that happens to you quietly while you're living. The walk after dinner, the tea held slowly, the silence kept without apology, the sleep protected like something worth protecting. None of it demands to be perfect. None of it asks for urgency. It only asks for repetition. So perhaps the invitation isn't to copy a list, or transform overnight, or chase some distant, idealized version of yourself. Perhaps it's simply to slow down, to notice where your own days could hold a little more stillness, a little more intention, a little more permission to exist without rushing toward anything. Not a checklist. A return. To a slower rhythm. To a quieter body. To yourself.